Hey Woodchucks, John here. I want to talk PPE, personal protective equipment. And as I wrote in the description, is a hard hat enough? Most of us are wearing hard hats. But I want to kind of tackle this issue by asking the question, why bother? Might be an obvious kind of a dumb question, right? Well, you might get hit, you might get hurt. Well, let's tease it out here. I think there's 3 reasons why I wear protective equipment. Okay? 1, I'm going to start with that I am honest enough with myself to acknowledge the reality that it can happen to me. I've been doing this a long time. I'm guessing a lot of you folks may have been doing this a long time. I've carried people out of the woods. I've lost friends to the woods. I've heard of horrible stories. And I always say that it doesn't mean it was their first day on the job, not by a long shot, right? You know this stuff. So that's what I mean by I'm honest enough with myself that I do the best I can with watching, try to plan ahead. But when you look at what we're working in and the overstory and the dead wood and the limbs and the foliage is on, I just acknowledge the reality that I just can't possibly be 100% every time that I know exactly what's going to happen. That's 1. Number 2 reason that I wear my protective gear is because I'm protecting my family. What do you mean? I'm protecting my family from having to deal with me getting an injury. I'm trying to reduce that possibility. I can't eliminate it. I just said so. But I'm going to try to do what I can to minimize the risk of my family having to deal with, 1, loss. I mean, I'm guessing they might miss me a little bit. I kind of hope so. But you know what? I almost think there's a worse situation. I don't want to end up sitting in a chair in the house and my wife is wiping the drool off my chin. Okay? That's what I'm protecting my family from. I don't want to put them through that. So that's 2. Number 3. Right? If I get hurt, okay, I can actually have this thing, the possibility of getting hurt is very real. And it's going to be expensive and it's going to hurt. Okay, that's the obvious one, right? So, we're talking protective equipment. If you've seen my latest videos here for a little while, you've seen that I've been wearing a little bit more than what I say is just a hard hat. Why do we wear the hard hat? Well, we get hit in the head. Hopefully it can minimize an injury. It's not 100%. I hear this asinine question of, well, if a tree falls on you, is your hard hat going to do you any good? I'll just leave that question alone, right? The issue is the majority of the injuries and the close calls that we hear about, right, are these dead limbs. Now I want to throw in a video right here that it took me a few minutes to set this one up, but I'm going to tuck it in right here. Okay, what do you think? How many of us have seen that scenario? And even further, how many of us have seen that limb drop minutes, possibly even longer, after we've cut our tree down? That dead limb that hangs around up there, we don't see it. It's in the foliage. It's tucked up above other limbs. All kinds of scenarios, right? How many times do we hear of really, really serious injuries that come from it was just a small limb? And I'll throw in now the picture of what it did to that watermelon right here, right? Can we imagine that hitting our head? No question. Could be very easily a fatality. So we wear the hard hat, okay? Now, I'm just taking this a little bit further. When I know the potential of that small dead limb, and you know they drop straight down, right? That's tends to be, they don't come down this way, they come straight down. And they're also sharp because they broke off, right? So I'm just acknowledging reality that I can't watch out 100% of the time for all of those. So I didn't develop it, I kind of put it together, this vest. So the vest idea is I can carry my tools with me, but I can shed the tool belt very easily when I want to jump in my machine or jump in my truck. But I can keep the vest on, and the vest allows me to keep my phone, radio, wrench, first aid kit, safety whistle, right? I can keep this stuff with me all the time, but I can't run my equipment with a tool belt on, so I'll shed the belt. But what I've added here is some protection to my shoulders. Think about that watermelon, right? That energy impact that would split that watermelon open or split this watermelon open can also do some very serious damage to my shoulder, right? Can you imagine that sharp dead limb coming down and getting me right in the shoulder? You're going to have problems, and it could be a lifetime of problems with that bone and cartilage and tendon and all that stuff. Now, the other thing I did with my vest is I put a back pad in it, okay? And you notice that it's very perforated. So I've always said with protective equipment, safety gear, okay, PPE, there's three things that have to come together for us to wear this stuff. One is it needs to be functional, okay? Hard hat, hitting the head, you're expecting it to give you some protection. I've got these shoulder pads on, I'm expecting it to give me some protection. The back pad, that I consider that's like the hard hat for my spine. I was hit over 30 years ago now. Small, standing, dead tree, 4 or 5 inches, right? Maybe 40 feet tall, the top had broken out. And that thing just fell over from behind me, it hit me in the back hard enough to crack my shoulder blade. That hurt, and it took a while to get over that one. No doubt in my mind, had that hit more onto my spine, and I probably wouldn't be, freestanding on my own. If it had energy enough to crack my shoulder blade and it had it hit me right in the spine, it could have been a very different outcome. So I consider that back pad, I call it, that's a hard hat for my spine. It's for those dead limbs, those broken off branches that come down and don't miss. Those ones that land beside us and we kind of like, whoa, that was close, and keep right on working. Well, I'm just figuring I can add a little bit more protection. So getting back to when it comes to the protective equipment, there's 3 things I like to tie together. So one is it's functional. Okay, you see what I mean by it'll do what we're asking it to do. 2 is it needs to be relatively comfortable. Relatively, right? I've got these pads on, and you saw that perforation in that back pad that I use. It's very comfortable. It really is. Summertime, I can wear this, and what I like about the vest is I can adjust it, I can open it up. It's wintertime, I can have heavier clothes on. Same vest, fits very comfortably. Doesn't weigh hardly anything, and so that's what I mean by it's functional. It's still very comfortable. It's not cumbersome to the point where I'm going to rationalize I don't want to wear that. It really is comfortable. Now the third one, I always chuckle at this one because it can be the biggest hurdle out of the 3, and that is, will the industry accept it? And what I'm talking about there is peer pressure. You come up with some new idea, especially when it comes to safety gear. I remember the chap thing, right? I was running the saw back in the late 70s. Chaps were a new concept. They were just trying to figure out, they came up with that Kevlar, right? And they started to making the chap thing. Well, the industry as a whole is like, I ain't wearing that stuff. That's too hot and yada, yada, yada. Well, they've come a long ways with it. They've made it much more comfortable. You see that a lot of us are wearing pants. Now, yes, I do spend, a decent amount of money, about $400 for a good pair of cutting pants. They're between $300 and $400. So, but I want something comfortable. My point here is, right, functional, comfortable, but accepted within the industry. Can we kind of maybe see where you show up on a job with this setup on? It's kind of like, what's up with that stuff, right? It's different, it's new. But I've been showing this around I've been doing a lot of training with it. And as a matter of fact, I was working with a fire department just this weekend, and their eyes just lit right up because they could see the potential of the safety gear. They really like that detachable belt system. And it's going to be interesting to see if they go with it and make up their own tool system for what they do. I could see this used for ambulance crews, carpentry, electricians, and all of that, where we want to have some of this stuff with us all the time, but then we can have a tool belt set up for what the tools that you use for your trade is the idea. So I'm going to put a tag in a, what do they call it? A connection. I can't get to the word here. The paste the address to this vest here. This is a Diamondback tool vest. Okay, I got it online, and I'll put a link. Thank you. There's the word. Whoever said that, thanks. The link to the vest. Now, I want to, where I got the pads, these are out of motocross jackets. So you could look that up. I'll try to find the link if I can. So to these shoulder pads and that back pad that I'm using there. So that's where they're from. They're motocross jacket padding. And I put them on with a zip tie, and I use a hot nail. I just heat a nail up with a propane torch, right? Hold it with a pair of pliers, of course. And I just put the pad where I want it, and I melt a couple of holes right through the pad and then right through this nylon belting. And a zip tie, that's how I put them on. It's very simple. So that's what this is. And then, if you want to make something up on your own, I'd love to see a picture of it. See what you guys come up with ideas. If you think this is something that's right, functional, comfortable, and acceptable. That peer pressure thing can be a really big hurdle. So I hope this gives us something to think about. Really, that was kind of the reason I thought I wanted to throw that out there, is give us something to think about. We always want to be thinking, can we make it a little better, right? Where it doesn't matter whether it's how our saws are running, cutting, our safety gear. Can we keep it productive, safe, efficient? And curious if you guys come up with something. If you find this useful, remember that ring the bell thing, right? We'd appreciate it. I'll try to get these out, as I've got a lot of questions that I'm trying to cover here. So ring the old bell, share it around, and see you in the woods sometime. Take care.